Hi guys. Okay, so obviously session 2 we completed yesterday. Um, just trying to use our knowledge of power in the play to write a 3-sentence GST introduction. So I hope you got along with that okay. Obviously you can revisit the session anytime, as many times as you need to. Because today we're moving on to develop from that. So as I said at the end of yesterday's session, everything we say in our introduction has to be developed and proven. So we're setting up some big ideas, we're showing our understanding of the play, but then for that to have value to our answer, we need to find evidence in the play to prove it, and we need to develop lines of analysis. So that's our focus for today. So if you remember, I'm working on a question and you're working on a very similar question. I'm showing you how to do the task and then you're practicing on your task. So my question, how does Shakespeare present Lady Macbeth as a powerful character? I set out my GST introduction in the last session. So the big ideas I set out in that, I'm now going to endeavour to prove. So I've already found a line, or thought of a line from the play, which I think supports the things I said. And I said obviously that Lady Macbeth has emotional power, that her ambition for power destroys her, and those are my sort of big ideas. So I've picked this line which says, "Come you spirits that tend on mortal thoughts, unsex me here, and fill me from the crown to the toe, top full of direst cruelty, make thick my blood." We already talked about this line in an earlier session, so I don't want to talk about it too much, but it comes from Act 1. Lady Macbeth has just read Macbeth's letter telling him about the predictions, and we can obviously see that her ambition has been sparked basically, and she's trying to summon some cruelty within her to be able to do the act required to achieve ambition. So we can look here, obviously these really important words is "unsex me here," and the fact that she doesn't actually want to be a man. She's not asking to change genders here. It's more about what gender represents by the standards of the age. And masculinity represents power and violence and strength and all of those things, whereas femininity is more closely aligned with ideas of being gentle and not having the capacity to commit such acts of terror. So she wants to summon those masculine qualities. The fact she's asking to be filled with cruelty obviously helps us to understand her, doesn't it? That she's not an innately evil character, that Shakespeare isn't trying to suggest to her that she's just this terrible evil character who's been waiting for this moment, but that actually ambition has sparked her capacity for evil. And then the reference to blood, and blood being such an important symbol in this play, that generally if the word blood appears in a line, it's usually something clever we can say about it. So your line is over here. So I've picked out for you, "His brandished steel which smoked with bloody execution." So this line comes from Act 1, Scene 2. What I'd like you to do is to make a note of that line on a little bit of paper and to add some notes to it. Think about what could you say about this line? What type of power does it show us that Macbeth has got, and which words could you comment on? So if you could pause the video for a few moments, copy the line, add a few notes about why that line shows Macbeth's power, that would be super. Okay, so hopefully you identify quite quickly that this shows Macbeth's physical power. By the standards of the age, it represents his masculine power, his ability to destroy an enemy. We talked about this line already, haven't we? So we picked out before his brandished steel, a reference to his sword. This is a weapon of power, the weapon of a soldier. And then the fact that it's smoked with bloody execution, I think that smoke is quite hyperbolic, really, isn't it? That sense that he's so efficient and so ruthless and so deadly. And at this point in the play, the reference to blood again reinforces his power. That being able to wear the blood of one's enemies symbolises how physically strong and powerful you are. So Macbeth introduced as a powerful character in physical sense and the kind of heroic sense right from the beginning of the play. Okay, so now I'd like to go back to my question, how does Shakespeare present Lady Macbeth as powerful? And I'm going to analyse my line. So I'm just going to talk you through the process and then you can apply the process to your line. I'll do it all in one go, but you can obviously go back through this and pause it at moments in order to write your own in a minute. So as you know, we always start, whilst we're in the practice phase of essay writing, with the name of the character who said the line. So in this case, it was Lady Macbeth. So Lady Macbeth. We then always say when the line was said to kind of contextualise it within the play. So after reading Macbeth's letter about his meeting with the witches, Lady Macbeth, after he read about his, why did I put that in there? About his meeting with the witches. And this is really, she's got speaking to the audience, isn't she? But we can say she asks the spirits in this instance, but we'll put spirits in quotation marks because it is a word. So asks the spirits and we don't want to write out that whole section because there's a lot of it, isn't it? But she asks them to unsex me here. I think that's the first bit we'll talk about. So Lady Macbeth, after reading Macbeth's letter about his meeting with witches, asked the witches to unsex me here. And then obviously we want to take another bit of it and we'll paraphrase bits so we don't have to quote the whole thing, and fill her with direst cruelty. So Lady Macbeth, after reading Macbeth's letter about his meeting with the witches, asked the spirits to unsex me here and fill her with direst cruelty. I think I'll add that last bit. Make thick my blood. It's not the easiest detail to integrate, that one, but we've done it. Okay, so now I've integrated the quotation. Now I can say what I can infer. So I need to say something about the whole quotation. So this allows the audience to infer, and obviously it's what we can work out for ourselves. So we can infer, can't we, that she's not an innately evil character, but that her ambition has been sparked. So further, I'm just going to put LM to shorten it down. Lady Macbeth is not being presented as an innately evil character, but that her ambition has been sparked by the predictions and she is willing to do whatever it takes to increase her power. Okay, so I've explained about the whole detail, the whole section that I've quoted. I've explained what I can work out about her from it and what Shakespeare's trying to show me through her. So now I can zoom in, so I can look at specific words and details which I can say more about. So I can start this again with in particular. Anytime we're trying to zoom, we're trying to say something more specific, that's a useful wording. So in particular, her use of the term, or her use of the word, should we say here, unsex. And now I need to say something about that word and the fact that she wants to move beyond the parameters of her gender. And she wants to be able to enact more masculine behaviours. So in particular, her use of the word unsex is interesting because it indicates her desire to move beyond the parameters. Now, parameters just means boundaries. So I'm just saying read the boundaries. Parameters of femininity. By femininity here, I'm using it to mean the expectations of a woman. Oops, made a little spelling mistake there. Let's just correct that. Femininity. Move outside, move beyond the parameters of femininity and enact a more masculine, more powerful role. And I think it's be useful here to add a little point about the patriarchal society. So if I just say written at a time when society was patriarchal, Lady Macbeth would have had little power, and it seems that the temptation to achieve the ultimate form of power, royal power, has just change this word here. Okay, so written at a time when society was patriarchal, Lady Macbeth would have had little power, and it seems that the temptation to achieve the ultimate form of power, royal power, has changed her character. So we kind of obviously said a little bit more here about those words. Now, obviously, also the fact she wants to be filled with cruelty and the reference to blood we can also mention. So we could say her reference to blood is also significant because blood is an important symbol throughout the play. At this stage, it represents power and her desire to be able to act without conscience. Yeah, so conscience, obviously the thing that tells us right and wrong, and she wants to try and forget her conscience and to act without it. So the last thing we need then is to think about our tentative intent sentence. We need to think about, what was Shakespeare really trying to do with this? Why does he include this detail? And I think it's a complex line, and there's lots of potential options here. Perhaps he was trying to suggest that women are capable of power, that although Lady Macbeth hierarchically lacks power because of her gender, actually she is able to seize her moment of power. Perhaps he's trying to show that her lack of power and her desire to kind of break free of that. So that's why we have to be a bit tentative. So we could say, it seems that Shakespeare has included this detail in order to, and obviously then we have to think of our intent verb, what he's trying to do. So to reveal, it seems that Shakespeare included it to reveal, and I'm going to say for this, I'm going to talk about the tantalising impact of power, to reveal how tantalising just means appealing, power can be, and even good people are willing to make terrible choices in order to achieve it. So there's various points I could have made there, but I'm happy with that. So let's have a read through the whole thing. Lady Macbeth, after reading Macbeth's letter about his meeting with the witches, asks the spirits to unsex me here and fill her with direst cruelty, make thick my blood. This allows the audience to infer that Lady Macbeth is not being presented as an innately evil character, but that her ambition has been sparked by the predictions, and she is willing to do whatever it takes to increase her power. In particular, her use of the word unsex is interesting, because it indicates her desire to move beyond the parameters of femininity and enact a more masculine, more powerful role. Written at a time when society was patriarchal, Lady Macbeth would have had little power, and it seems that the temptation to achieve the ultimate form of power, royal power, has changed her character. Her reference to blood is also significant, because blood is an important symbol throughout the play. At this stage, it represents power and her desire to be able to act without conscience. It seems that Shakespeare has included this detail in order to reveal how tantalising power can be, and even good people are willing to make terrible choices in order to achieve it. Possibly I overdone the word power there, but we're practising and it's fine, and it shows that I'm focused on the question. Okay, so over to you then. You can obviously rewatch, rewind, pause this video as many times as you need to, but I'd like you to have a go at writing your own paragraph using the same structure and parameters as mine in response to your line, this line on the board. His brandished steel which smoked with bloody execution. And if it helps you, Here's